Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you work your A game. Ain't made no rains.
Well, I think this is like a lot of this doom and gloom is coming from Dave, right? Every time something comes over, Dave is like writing. I feel like Dave is warming up the AEW death knell every time he talks about it. You know, well, you know, they're gonna make big plays for all their stars. And part of me is like, okay, then they're gonna have all the stars, and then those people are gonna be unhappy because there's not enough TV time for all of them too. Like this is, and then you have a chance to elevate people that are still here because not everybody is gonna want to go over there. Like I get so tired of like, well, it's WCW all over again, dude. Okay, if AEW is WCW, and let's start it from when Crockett buys the TBS spot in 1985, right? Right now we're in 1989. That's it. We're 4 years in. WCW had another 12 years, and their company was run like shit for the entirety of its existence. Like we have to stop drawing these parallels just because it makes convenient talk. And I'm not accusing Dave Meltzer of that because he's a smart guy, but I feel like he gets traumatized by the failure of WCW, so he has non-flashbacks and stuff like that.
Right. Well, because he saw it coming years in advance before WCW even saw it coming. And one of the things that he did, and I think this is one of the parallels that he's drawing, and Edge is a part of that, is that at a time when they were not focusing on WCW, when WCW was not focusing on Steve Austin and Cactus Jack, and what was Triple H's Terrorizing, and Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud, right? They were spending big money on Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Honky Tonk Man, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude. Like they were bringing they brought over like Crush and just called him Bryan Adams, and he did nothing for the, you know what I mean? So like that's the parallels, right? And then now we're starting to see like, hey, more of these like guys in their 40s in WWE, a lot of their contracts are coming up due, and WWE is not offering them the money that they want. There's a rumor out there about Sheamus. I don't know. Like his contract's coming up. Is WWE going to be able to keep Sheamus, and is Tony Khan going to be able to not sign him? Right? Because how much value does a Sheamus bring to your team? But the aura or the thought of bringing a guy that was once a big name in WWE, bringing him to your company, like that's what they're kind of looking at. And that's what WCW did in the mid-90s. I think Tony Khan is doing a better job of it, and he's been far more effective at it. And the guys that he's brought over to his company, with a couple of exceptions, right, actually really want to be there and make that company better. Then there's like the little shitheads that came over. They started missing their girlfriends and their fiancés, and they found out Triple H was in charge, and they immediately started disrupting shit and wanting to go back. So you have those handful, but then you got Adam Cole, you got Bryan Danielson, you got, Edge seems to be like on board like a team player. And I think there's more of those guys than there are, I'm just going to say it, Andrades and Malachi Blacks, that just kind of like came over and just wanted to leave immediately.
So that's true. Those guys are bad examples of like people you want to sign. So let's look at this. Like the historical comparison is bad because WCW, when they had all those guys, didn't really know what to do with them. But it wasn't like they weren't pushing guys. Who are the top guys? Like before Hogan comes over, their top guys are Sting and Vader. Right? Those are WCW guys. And Sid.
Flair,
and Flair. Yeah. Like those are their guys. And the problem is they weren't drawing with their guys. They weren't drawing with anyone. Here's the dirty secret about it. People go, well, WCW couldn't draw in 1993. I want you to go back and look at where WWE was running Raws in 1993. They're running them in high school gyms.
High schools, yeah.
Like nothing in professional wrestling was drawing in the early 90s. So they're bad examples. Like those guys, and like you said, some of those guys aged out of WWF, and Vince cut them loose before their value was done. Hogan needed a fresh start. Hogan needed to get out. Savage is a different story. They proved there was a lot more life in Savage and Flair, right? Yeah. Now, at the same time, do we get Steve Austin? Do we get Mick Foley as we know him? Do we get those guys if they stay with WCW? I don't think we do, because the infrastructure there was not built to bring guys up, right?
Yeah.
And those guys had to taste some failure to achieve something. At the same time, right? Look how much better Kevin Nash and Scott Hall got when they came to WCW. They became much bigger stars in WCW than they were. Kevin Nash was a failure as the world champion. And Scott Hall was
Epically.
pretending. It was Scott Hall was pretending to be Al Pacino, pretending to be a Cuban guy.
Yeah, but Razor Ramon was great, and he was
He was a
really over as
mid-carder.
Razor Ramon.
He was
an upper level mid carder. He was like
he was an upper level
Intercontinental
mid-carder.
title in the 1994, could main event B
He didn't
shows,
draw.
but he was like, oh, nobody fucking drew in that company.
But that's the thing.
Right?
He wasn't even put in a position to draw. In WCW, they become draws as the
Of course, yeah. No, they
They were the-
absolutely were bigger when they went back to WCW. When they left WWF and went back to WCW, absolutely. But I don't want to disparage Razor Ramon. I fucking used the Razor's Edge of my brother for years. You know what I mean?
Marvelous Me, man. What show is this? Like,
oh
we
yeah,
love our
TNA. Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah,
that's what we do. Like, we love Scott Hall. I'm just saying, those guys. Everyone talks about Austin and everyone talks about Foley, how they didn't find success in WCW. Hall and Nash found much bigger success in WCW than they had in WWE.
Right. Well, but they got that partially because they came over as WWE guys, right? Using their WWE characters back in WCW. Now I understand the Diamond Stud started off, but he became more famous when he's in WWF, and then he became even more famous because of the way that they treated him, the way that they pushed him in the NWO that set the fucking world on fire.
Mike, it almost sounds like you're telling me that that moving between companies is better for talent and better for and better for the industry. Like,
yeah, but I think what you absolutely need that, but I think what you're ignoring is the parallel that Dave's trying to make. AEW is signing these overpriced WWE guys, right? I'm just trying to explain his side. While WWE seems to be focused on the younger stars that AEW have, Jade Cargill, and now there's going to be some other stars that are coming to towards the end of the year. And now, of course, they wanted the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. They couldn't get them, right? They brought over Cody, whatever. But now I think what
the young guy
Cody,
to see, 38-year-old Cody Rhodes.
That's why I said whatever. But I said now they're going to start going after the more up and coming talents that AEW has. Well, AEW is going to be transfixed on guys like Edge and Sheamus and maybe Drew McIntyre, those types.
So there's okay, that's the assumption that who is the world champion in AEW, despite how the show's been playing out. Who's AEW's world champion? It's MJF.
Their worst drawing world champion, MJF.
He is their worst drawing world champion, but he's also an under 30 world champion. Yeah. Right. Like,
you might draw on there when he's 35. We'll see.
You might. Like, Ray Phoenix is their international champion, that's actually become a title that means something in that company. Christian Cage has got the TNT title, something interesting, which is that's fairly new. That's been like 2 weeks.
But you mentioned Ray Phoenix. Why is Ray Phoenix the champion right now?
Because John Moxley got knocked unconscious.
Yeah. So he's not supposed to be the champion. That was an accident.
He's not supposed to be the champion.
John Moxley was supposed to be the champion.
John Moxley.
No, I'm not saying that Tony's not pushing his guys. He is. He's pushing it. Holy shit! Hold on. I forgot all about the comment section. We haven't had any. Hey, Scotty, welcome in, buddy.
That's what I'm saying. Respect Christian Cage. Now, here's the deal, though: is the idea of WCW is that you come in and you push the old guys, and you ignore the mid carders who go to WWF and don't get pushed, right? Because that's pretty much what happened, right? Of the Radicals, none of those guys got pushed for 5 years, right? It took 5 years for those guys to become main eventers. So it wasn't like I know we like to rewrite history and say those guys jumped to WCW or jumped from WCW and they became an instant force. They jumped to WWF and got jobbed out their first night in the company and were forced to eat a lot of shit. They were forced to eat a lot of shit. So, I mean, this is the idea. The idea that everyone from AEW, they're going to take all of AEW's main event guys and bring them over. Well, what the fuck's going to happen in WWE when you get all these other guys that are already main eventers? Right? Yeah. That creates, I know that's what Dave is worried about. I get that, but that's not a recipe for success on the WWE side either. They're just going to sign all of Tony's younger guys. Well, then what are they going to have with their younger guys too? Right? Now you got a bunch of guys who can't get pushed over there. Like that side gets ignored in this whole thing. And I just think that's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And, WCW signing the, Hogan's and all those guys in 1994 and then kind of not focusing on Steve Austin and Cactus Jack.
That was a mistake.
Really, it was a mistake by WCW, but it really, really fucking worked for Steve Austin and Cactus Jack. You know what I mean? Like that was awesome. And then, Triple H ended up coming over, I think at the end of 94, but he was not really a guy that was there for very long.
No, he was a tag team
guy. Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
Jean-Pierre Lafitte was PCO. Jean-Paul
Oh.
Levesque was Paul Levesque.
Okay. I got mixed up. I have
easy
impact.
mistake.
I have impact
Impact
on
brain.
my brain.
Impact
Yeah, I
brain.
have
But look at this. Okay, we talk about how WCW sent all these shit guys in 94. What happened in 95? Who did WCW bring in 1995? Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
Like that's when this is when WCW started, because WCW is the one who found all these great guys. A lot of them were from ECW, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them also came from Japan and Mexico, where dudes were paying their way. Chris Jericho, those guys all came in through WCW. So
Yep.
the problem was they didn't push them. Not in 95, they didn't push them in 97 and 98 when they should have.
Yeah.
That was a mistake, but they did push a guy like Diamond Dallas Page and Bill Goldberg, guys who they built up. So it wasn't like they weren't pushing anybody other than those old WWE guys. They just weren't pushing the internet favorites, most of whom remained mid-carders until the mid-2000s.
Yeah, speaking like the Radicals, that's so funny, because you were saying they didn't get pushed until 5 years in. By they, you mean Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. The other guys never got pushed.
Alexander never got pushed at all. Dean
No,
Malenko
no.
was retired like a year in. Yeah,
I think Benoit got pushed pretty early on as kind of an intercontinental champion level and was doing that stuff. And then he became world champion in like 04. But even then, like that was more like a consolation prize world championship. But Eddie Guerrero got fired and then had to go work indies for a while and then got brought back and then eventually got pushed after he, swolled himself up to about 245 pounds.
It took Eddie eating some shit and taking a lot of steroids to get pushed. Like, and then that's the thing is Chris Benoit, it's a lateral move as far as the card goes from WCW. Now, granted, the guy was probably a lot happier, right? He was miserable in WCW. That's fine. But the narrative is that the Radicals jumped and became like superstars overnight. It was literal lateral moves for all those guys for years,
including Chris Jericho. He debuts up against The Rock that first night,
and then he's pushed way down.
Yeah, they pushed him way down the card, and he was just kind of yo-yoing.
Mm-hmm.
His entire WWE career, that it was like that. Like it didn't get into like he had that little world title reign in like 01, 02. Yeah, but then he didn't really get another good reign until 08, and that was the really good run where he was like the methodical, crazy world champion, and he was feuding with Shawn Michaels, one of my favorite feuds. I love that.
Oh, it was a great feud. It's one of the best things. It's like probably the best thing they did in that era. But he retired. He retired in 05 and came back. So that entire run, the entire original Y2J run, he is the guy that unifies the world title, which is a cool little side note. What was that? 02? 01, yeah.
Yeah.
But was he ever treated? But like he wasn't treated like the world champion when he was there. No. He was just a dude hanging on to it. So Jean-Pierre Levesque can have a guy to beat when he gets back. Right?
Yeah.
They didn't really treat Jericho great. So it's like this myth that that all these WCW mid-carders went and found success and became phenomenal in WWE is myth. It's a myth. It's
really
heresy.
It was Kevin Nash. Probably when like 93 he comes over, right? And you got Steve Austin and you got Cactus Jack. And then those guys, became like mega, big time stars over there. But other than that, it was, more lateral moves than anything from most of those guys. Now Jericho did end up becoming a really big time main eventer, like I said, in 2008. And then he became like kind of because when you're around for so long and you're that upper mid card, occasional main eventer, they treat you kind of like a legend in that company. And then he carried that over to New Japan and then to AEW and kind of still carries that over. He's very much not a main eventer in AEW anymore, but he still kind of is treated as such. You know what I mean?
He's achieved that. Like they call him, he's like a legitimate legend. Like people know who Chris Jericho is. So like he's still a draw. He still gets attention. So I mean, like, and he's been absolutely worth every dime AEW paid for him. So I mean, if you have the right signees, and quite frankly, AEW got an influx of cash because they're not having to pay a certain contract. So
well, yeah, I mean, but I don't think Edge came over cheap, by the way.
No, I think it's trade.
Yeah. And I think it might be a little bit of they balance each other out, I'm sure.
We got some comments, man. We got some comments.
Yeah. Let's see. They were holding back the future.
John Muse.
From John Muse. Yeah.
He would know.
He would know.
He would know.
And then from name cannot be blank, similar to the narrative that Stone Cold became a major star immediately. I don't know that anybody ever said immediately, because his story
WWE says that
about
immediately.
they
WWE
talk
pretend,
about King of the Ring. He came
yeah.
in 95, but they tell the
Yeah.
story pretty well of him coming in 95 as the ringmaster and saying that it sucked, and then he overcame that. And that's a big part of his story. I don't know that anybody ever says immediately. I don't
No,
think
they
you can
say
Google. I don't think if
no.
you could put in your Google machine that WWE said Stone Cold immediately became a star once they were signed. They've never said that.
No,
I
no,
don't think it's
Blank,
ever
but
been
Blank's
said.
not talking about that. Blank specifically mentions the King of the Ring. The narrative in
Yeah.
WWE is he cut the Austin 316 promo
Oh shit!
and
I
then it was
misread
off
what
to
he
the
said.
races,
Yeah, yeah.
right? No,
No, no, no. Okay.
what happened is he won the King of the Ring, and then in the next pay-per-view, SummerSlam, his ass is on the pre-show. That's how hot
Against
Steve Austin was
Yokozuna.
against
Against
Yokozuna.
Yokozuna.
So they
Yeah.
clearly had eyes. Oh, we know this is the guy.
Well,
We're gonna build him. Full of shit, man.
yeah. No, you know what? Really, so King of the Ring was helpful, right?
It
96
did
King of
help.
the Ring, that was helpful. What really springboarded Stone Cold Steve Austin was Bret Hart when he came
Yep.
back saying, "I want to work with that fucking guy,"
Mhm.
because they had been working together over the previously, and he handpicked him as the opponent. That's what made Stone Cold. That's what made
Correct.
Stone Cold into the Stone Cold that we ended up seeing later. That's what made him into a megastar. But
And
King of the Ring was helpful.
it was helpful. It was a character. It's a character beat.
Yeah.
It's a stop on the journey. The guy
Yeah.
who I would compare the most to Steve Austin as far as a journey right now, and I'm not saying this guy is here, but we have a guy. Steve Austin was fired and had to discover himself again. When are we going to start talking about how WWE missed the boat on Swerve Strickland?
I think you and I talk about it every fucking week.
Every chance we get, but
But
we're the only guys who ever do.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they fired that guy.
yeah,
And not only did they fire that guy, Vince, the genius that Vince is, was going to put him in the tag team with Ashanti the Adonis and make Top Dollar the featured player for Hit Row.
yeah.
Right? And
Yep.
then Swerve didn't want to go back. He's happy. And they've been building that guy slowly into a dude that, much like a Steve Austin, has taken time to reinvent himself. And we're still in the middle of that reinvention. Right? But it's starting to come together. That match last week with Hangman was something. And now this week on Super Tuesday, Title Tuesday, whatever the hell they're calling it.
Tittle Tuesday.
Yeah. Titty Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday.
Yeah, he's very likely to have the match of his life against Bryan Danielson.
Most people do.
Let's get into that a little bit. Swerve should win that, right? But isn't that for what title? Is that for a TNT title shot?
TNT title shot.
So are they going to do Swerve and Christian? I don't understand.
Okay. I was thinking about this, and John Muse is in the chat, so I'm wrong here. I'm sure he'll point it out to me. Because I love when he does that. I don't know what they're going to do with this. The fact that it's before the TNT title is intriguing. So let's be real. Does Copeland and Christian need the TNT belt to be a thing?
No, absolutely not.
No. So could Copeland cost Christian the TNT belt and put it on Swerve? Because Bryan Danielson doesn't really need it.
Am I just reading into too much that Swerve's a heel and so is Christian, and they're my two favorite heels on the show, and I just don't want to see them wrestle? It makes no sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me either. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want him to lose to Danielson, right? Because he's on the come up. And again, Danielson beats everybody, and Swerve loses the big matches. Swerve over Hangman's his first big win, right? I feel like I don't want to stunt Swerve's growth, but I don't think Bryan Danielson needs the TNT belt either. It's very interesting. I don't know where they're going with it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going with it, and I think that Swerve would make a fine TNT champion,
especially if they're not ready to pull the trigger on him as a world champion.
Right, because I'm pretty sure they've already handpicked their next world champion. They already have that plan set in stone. I don't think it's going to be Jay White. I don't think it'll be Jay White, but they probably very likely already have that person picked out. And I don't think it's going to be Swerve, but I think by sometime next year that they should pick him.
I think that because again, I don't think you need to thrust the guy to the world title right away, because oftentimes that backfires, right? Look at Roman's first 5 world title reigns. I think easing a guy into the role is probably a good move. And I think we just started really getting Swerve moving up. I don't think he should jump right to world champion. I don't think Jay White should either, though. I would love to see Jay White as a champion. I don't know if he's ready yet. And here's the real problem is that MJF's title reign has taken such a shit. It's so unimportant right now. Like the title is so unimportant to what he's doing that I don't know what's going on. Like I love the show, but again, we're more agnostic on it than most of our network, but I find myself remarkably uninterested in what's going on with Adam Cole.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us right here on the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. I really appreciate you being here. Now, do me a big favor. Hit that big thumbs up button. Throw us a comment and make sure that you're a subscriber to this channel. Help us defeat the algorithm. That's really important for us. And then also, if you could share this channel and share this video with all of your friends and tell them that you really enjoy it, I would greatly appreciate it. And then if you do enjoy it, and if all that is true, please join us on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show for exclusive premium content coming every single week. Now, enjoy the clip.
We hostile, a hymn, I clear my throat and preach the gospel. My flow is doper than ever, nights when we separate, but together there's a murder.